Chess friends, I hope you are doing well. Today I have a new chess bot named Titan Chess Engine, which has an over 4000 ELO performance rating. Today, I played an astonishing and mind-blowing chess game against it, where I sacrificed my bishop and rook to expose its king side. I will share the chess opening tricks and middle game strategies that we employed in the game, so stay tuned until the end of the video. I started the game with e4, we have e5 and a few moves later. I didn't play the bishop opening or the duo piano variation. Instead, I played d4. After the center exchanges, black was not interested in capturing my knight because my queen would then gain a strong central position on d4. That's why Titan played bishop to c5, putting more pressure on the centralized knight. We have bishop to e3 to protect the knight, where my opening idea is to move my knight to the usual square and place the rook on d1 to take control of the half-open file. Then I can play bishop to c4, followed by queen to f3, to put more pressure on the f7 pawn, or I can play queen to g4 to take advantage of the g file. Alright, here Titan showed its brilliance by playing queen to f6, putting more pressure on the center and targeting the f2 pawn at the same time with the bishop. Titan didn't play knight to f6, instead, it considered knight to e7 to gain access to the light squares. Now we have c3 to protect the knight and also create some space for my queen and bishop. The knight moves to e7, emphasizing the idea of playing d5 on the next move to free up space for the light squared bishop. The bishop went to b5 because I wanted to play a short side castle, and we both settled down on the short side. Here, black had the choice of considering d6 or playing rook to d8, but Titan didn't play those moves. Instead, it played bishop takes d4, which is a very unnatural move because it gives me the opportunity to control the center with my two central pawns. Now, d6 may be considered by many chess players. Let me show you the variation. If you play d6 to open up the bishop's diagonal, I will consider knight to c3. After the pawn moves, I will simply move my bishop back to e2. I have no interest in your dumb knight on the c6 square. This knight is just useless because it won't contribute to your position. Therefore, after black plays b5, I will play d5, and after queen to d2, I will dominate the dark squares. As you can see, after b4, the knight moves back temporarily, like a lion retreating only to pounce forward with its jaw for hunting. Here, I will consider f4 on the board, directly putting pressure on the knight. The best move for black would be to consider knight to g4, but knight to g4 might not come to mind for some chess players. That's why many might think of considering knight to g6, which is just a vulnerable move because it completely destabilizes the queen, the knight, and the king side position. Now I can play bishop to d4, putting more pressure on the queen. Your queen has only one square to go to, which is h4. After I push the pawn to g3, the queen will face immense trouble. The queen then needs to move to h3 and I will play f5, cutting off the queen's escape route. Now, after the knight moves, knight to f2 will arrive and you can see that your queen will become completely trapped, with no squares to escape. By the way, today is Netaji Jayanti, a moment of celebration for India, and Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose is my idol. Like him, in this position, Titan didn't play d6 but instead played d5, revolting in the center like Subhash Chandra Bose. Now we have f3 because I want to ensure that my center remains intact and I need to open up my rook file and queen's diagonal simultaneously. We have a6, and my bishop moves back to eventually join the c2 square, gaining access to that diagonal. Meanwhile, my other bishop's diagonal is already open. The knight goes to a5, controlling the light squares. Moves like b5 followed by bishop to b7 might be possible to take advantage of that route. I played queen to c1 because I needed access to the dark square diagonal, and to target the pawn on c7. The queen moved to b6, and after a few more moves, black struck in the center with f5, attacking my center and attempting to open up the bishop's diagonal, and the rook file simultaneously. Knight to c3 happened, and we had some pawn exchanges in the center. Now, take a moment and think, can you capture the pawn on e4? I didn't capture the pawn because of bishop to f5, the queen then moved to g5, putting pressure on the pawn and the knight simultaneously, while also targeting the e7 knight. Titan had to think carefully and scratched its head for a while before playing knight to a5, which was a good move. it protects the pawn and the knight at the same time. Now we have knight takes e4, where I captured the pawn. My pawn on d4 is under attack by 2 pieces, but can black capture it? Let me show you the variation. If you dare to capture the pawn on d4, you'll regret it. The bishop pins the knight, and I will then consider d5, checking the king and attacking the knight simultaneously. In this position, black didn't capture the pawn but instead played queen takes b2, capturing the pawn to equalize material. Here, I played my first tactical move. Can you guess what it was? The move was g4. This move is very tactical because it attacks the knight and threatens the a5 knight as well. Black first played h6 to attack my queen, but it didn't matter because my queen went to h5, maintaining pressure on both knights. Then, we had knight takes d4. Now, think carefully, the knight on a5 can be captured by my queen, but should I capture it? Let me show you the variation. Many players might become greedy and capture the knight on a5. But hold on. Here, black gains a significant advantage by playing knight to e2 with check. Now my king will be under attack, and because I played g4 a few moves ago, my king will face many problems. Why the hell did the pawn go to attack black? Now I am left defenseless. After king to h1, bishop takes g4 and the bishop can give me a check on the f3 square, which can lead to a checkmate. Think a little bit about what white should play in this position. Many players might think of considering queen to d5 check, as it can be thought of even by master-level chess players. Then after h4, the king can escape to the h2 square. Now black can play a significant move by playing rook to d8 in this position, attacking the queen. Now the queen has to run. After queen to b3 happens, offering a queen exchange, black can show you a middle finger and play bishop to f3 check. Your king's position will become very bad because, after the king goes to the dark square, the queen can play queen to e5 check, checking the king on the dark square, and after the king moves, queen takes knight will happen. Your king will be under attack by many pieces and will be very defenseless, while the black king will be safe and secure, and my position will be completely over. So, going back to the position, we discovered that playing queen to d5 in this position would be a very bad choice. That's the reason why another possible move that white can consider is bishop to g3. It is an intermediate move that many players might think of considering. Then black will play a significant move by capturing the rook on the a1 square, and what a beautiful queen sacrifice it is because it forces my rook to capture, and then bishop to f3 check will arrive. With the bishop and knight's joint attack, my king will be checkmated, and black will win the game. But I don't want to lose the game like you. You have no reputation, but I have much more reputation than any chess player, and I need to defeat Titan because he is the new chess bot, and I don't want to lose against him. So, let me share an inspirational quote in sudden with you. We have to be honest about what we want and take risks rather than lie to ourselves and make excuses to stay in our comfort zone. So, going back to the position, I discovered that capturing the knight would be a very bad choice. That's why I first considered queen to d5, checking the black king and simultaneously pressuring the knight. The knight moves back for the king and knight's safety. Now we have bishop to e3 on the board, putting pressure on the rook. Here you can think a little bit about capturing the rook on the a1 square, but that would not be good for you. That's why black first considered rook to d8, putting pressure on the queen and also sacrificing his own knight on the a5 square. I captured the knight, but black is not inferior to me. He also played queen to e2 because he wanted to put pressure on these pieces and the pawns simultaneously. The rook goes to e1 and after capturing, the knight goes to the g3 square. It looks like my position is very safe and secure with my rook pieces. Black here played a very tactical move, and that is b6 on the board, attacking the queen. At the same time, he is threatening to consider bishop to b7 to seize control over the light squares. He is also pressuring the a4 bishop. My queen cannot protect the bishop, and that's very unfortunate for me. The queen goes to the h5 square, offering a queen exchange. Now black picked up the bishop on the a4 square, taking revenge on me. Here you can think a little bit about what white should consider in this position. Here, I played a very brilliant move, a brilliant sacrifice, Think a little bit and pause the video if you need. The move I considered here is bishop takes h6, sacrificing the bishop right on the board. The reason I sacrificed the bishop is that if black captures the bishop on h6, I can play knight to f5 on the board, where my knight creates some valuable pressure on the king with a joint attack with the rook and the queen. If the queen goes back to the d7 square, protecting the file, I can again sacrifice my rook on the e6 square. That is a very cunning rook sacrifice. Every rook sacrifice is very cunning and masterful because, after you capture it, I will play queen to g4 check. The king cannot go there because that is queen to g7 checkmate. Therefore, after the king moves, queen check will arrive. After the king moves again, I will play another cunning move, knight to d6 check. You can see that your position will be over because there is rook to f8 coming on the board. It forces you to capture my knight, but it does not matter to me because there is queen to f7, which will lead to checkmate. So, going back to the reason, we discovered that after capturing on h6, black cannot capture my bishop. That is my god-level chess. If I sacrifice my piece, my opponent will not be able to capture it. But if you sacrifice your piece in some way or other, thinking or planning or making a blunder, you will lose anyway. That is the difference between the world computer chess champion and an inferior human chess player like you. Therefore, black moved his queen back to the d7 square, trying to protect the king with full pressure. Here, I played another tactical move. Can you guess what I played in this position? Try to think a little bit and pause the video if you need. The move I considered is rook takes e6 on the board. I sacrificed my rook, and black had to capture the rook because he had no other choice. I captured his piece, and if he dared not capture my piece, he would be materially down. Here, I played another sacrificing move. I played bishop takes g7 on the board, which is a very cunning move. I played 3 brilliant moves, 3 brilliant sacrificing moves, in a row in this chess game. You can access this chess game on my website, ramachess.com, where I post the best chess games of Stockfish and Magnus Carlsen. You can visit my website. You can see how I am threatening to checkmate black with my pieces. Black here played queen to e3 check, forcing my king to move to the h1 square. However, I cannot put my king on the h1 square. The reason is that bishop to b7 will lead to a checkmate in a few moves. That's the reason why in this position, I did not play king to h1. Instead, I played rook to f2 and my rook got pinned down by the queen. The queen cannot play queen to e1 because there is knight to f1, and you will be left with no advantages. That's the reason why we have king takes g7. A few moves later, you can see I played queen to f6. I wanted to pick up the rook, and that's what happened in the game. Your rook and your pieces are under pressure and have not moved from the opening till now. Your king is also vulnerable. We have a queen check, and a few moves later, you can see I gave him some checks. Then queen to e8, followed by knight to e3, happened on the board to seize control of some valuable squares. The bishop went to the b7 square. This is the alternative variation that I am going to illustrate for you. If bishop to b7 happened to open up some space to move pieces, I can play rook to f7 check. A few moves later, you can see that, with the rook and bishop combining attacks, I will be able to checkmate you on the board. That will be very bad for you. So, going back to the position, we discovered that b2 b7 is not possible. That's the reason why Titan here considered b2 h3, possibly creating some free space for the bishop, but that also does not matter because the king is very hopeless. A few moves later, you can see that Titan is facing many problems. His ship has just crashed into a glacier and it's sinking in the Atlantic Ocean. A few moves later, I captured Titan's queen, and shortly after that, with my queen and king working together, I was able to check and eventually checkmate him. That was a very fantastic game that I had with Titan Chess. I hope you liked the video very much. If so, then don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel. Wishing you all the best. Bye bye, take care and see you soon.